Stage 7 of the Tour of Langkawi, just one to go after this, and the great race would be drawn to a close. So, 7th and penultimate round then of this great race, 224.4 kilometers as well to be dealt with, from Nali to Muar. First intermediate sprint of the day coming just after the 9 kilometer mark. Mountain also the first category 4 climb at 14.5 kilometers in, and then the second climb at Legeng after around 24. More climbing as well still to come at the 49 kilometer mark, and then again at 63.2 and indeed 88.2. They were really stacking them up here. 6 KOMs on the day, the last coming at the 112 mark. Second sprint coming after 136, and then still an awful long way to go until we actually got to the end. Busy time, and time to show off indeed the jerseys as per usual. Artem Ovechkin of TSG wearing the yellow, Ricardo Manali in the green. Artem Ovechkin also owning the polka dot jersey, courtesy of those climbs, and maybe a jersey he might lose on a day such as this unless he was in the break. Duarte wearing that on his behalf, and Yevgeny Gidic of Astana with the Young Riders jersey. An easy start, as you might have suspected. This, of course, the neutralised zone, but likewise it was not overly busy at the top, mainly because a big breakaway was decided that it was going to invest in the day, and with such a long run, I don't think anyone was minded to treat this as an extended sprint. Oh no. So the breakaways, those hoping to at least bid to be out there alone, started to peel off the front, and in fact every single one of them was monitored. Into the opening sprint, Gidic took that ahead of Jacob Hennessy and Scottson of Mitchelson Bike Exchange. Abdul Ghani for KFC picking up the last of the points along the way. This was about neutralising points, I think, out there. And those teams that had riders high up in the classification just wanted to make sure that none of their challengers were about to duke it out. First, getting the mountains points up for grabs, and it was Alvaro Duarte that was to come through to nab this one. Bernardo Souza was to push him hard, with Sierra of Manzana, a postbon as well, picking up 1 point. That's Yachid Sierra. As you can see, beautiful rolling terrain, and possibly the most interesting geography that we've had so far. Absolutely lovely. So Duarte wrestling that one from Souza and Sierra, and there was yet more. They were coming as hammer blows out there. Temperatures had tumbled just a little bit. We were operating at around 36 degrees, which frankly felt a little bit cool after the 40s and 44 Celsius that we've been dealing with earlier in the race. Still bright sunshine with very high cloud, kind of a blanket, if you like, covering everybody. Bernardo Souza it was that got the jump on Duarte and Bozzolti in that next intermediate sprint. It's sorry, King of the Mountains, I beg your pardon. The rolling terrain, hard to distinguish between the KOM points and the sprints, because they were much the same, almost reflective of each other. Bozzolti it was that came in third with 198.5 kilometers still remaining. That is a long old day. So there's a lot of punching going on at the very beginning, and I think the organisers had designed the course so there was so much up for grabs. And when we finally got our big breakaway, it was a 10-rider chasing group out there and a 21-rider breakaway. It was brutal. Well, Souza took that second KOM, but we were almost teeing ourselves up in expectation for yet another at Bukit Putis. Again, it was Manzama Postbon and Swaza that went clear, with 4 points for him ahead of Duarte in second, followed by Munoz as well. Duarte keen to be a major feature in this one, but how much more would he have to fight? Duarte wearing the polka dots on behalf of Ovechkin, but that jersey may well change and belong to Duarte by the end. He was certainly working hard for it. Well, that looked like speed cams, but don't worry, the police weren't involved. It was just a question of rolling through, taking yet more points if you could possibly grab them. Another, Ziri Manati taking this one. Sun Yang for that team with 4 points ahead of Ozini, and Rosa this time by for Willia Triestina getting up. Well, it was packed full of important action points ahead of the final stage, and I think they just wanted to make sure that the racing would continue before we actually got to the last stage and the grand finale. Gonzalo Postobon with Juan Felipe Ozario heading for the line in this one. And in fact, it was Ozario that stole it from Sierra. Just the last point going to Luca Chirico. This is they coming through, or confirmation of that. Well, as we had the sixth King of the Mountains of the day, it's amazing, isn't it? Just a real shark's tooth profile to the course. It was Azam Zawai of Supra taking the 4 points, followed by Thailand's Aya in second, and third, Victor Nino delivering. Well, they kind of rolled over it, no surprise there. The breakaway of no concern really for the overall standings in any of the jersey competitions. And now it was established they were hoovering everything up, and it was just a question of personal bragging rights, I guess, at the dinner table in the evening. Well, a select group at the front going clear. Dimension Data, Supra in the front behind the yellow jersey. They were kind of having their own battles, really, if you could possibly describe it as that. Well, as they entered the second intermediate sprint of the day with bonus seconds up for grabs, it was, I guess you might say, not really of major concern to any of those that were involved in the break, although Lucas Osvian making a noise for himself in that yellow jersey, and good to see that he was actually showing his face out there. He did go for some bonus seconds, just I guess for a little bit of insurance before the line, but didn't pick any up, finishing fourth in the sprint. But great to see that the jersey was out there and making a good fist of it. Big dig. Paolo Simeon it was that took the 5 points. Mohamed Zawai the 3, ahead of Dylan Page and Lucas Osvian, as you can see from CC Sprandi Polkovici. Well, Artem Ovechkin is the overall leader. Osvian making a nice noise for himself here, though. Well, the danger man for CCC Sprandi is Osvian, taking the first, followed by Fonzi and Triestina and Mano Bellini at the sprint. And so, yeah, as you can see, it was just one rolling line to the next, and every single one of them well attended. The crowd's loving it here. Osvian with 5 points ahead of Giuseppe Fonzi, Manuel Belletti and Johan van Zyl. Osvian racking him up, and indeed starting to bring himself further and further into that classification. The Asian riders were not to be outdone either, but by the time we finally got to the last series of intersections, things were livening up. This is a Van Zyl attack with a second and third group out there, just splitting everything to pieces, it seems. Well, when the final turns revealed themselves, it was a sprint final to the line, and Androni Zydemek, who had Belletti up there. Lucas Osvian was also in the mix in the orange, but frankly this was all about the man who'd been bravest on the day, and this race reflected of that, I think it's fair to say, throughout. Manuel Belletti of Androni Giocattoli Zydemek just left everyone in his wake. It was great to see. Well, there was a number of groups out there, but frankly a spin-off. Belletti lit it up, was followed by Zupa. Dylan Page also involved here from Supura Cycling. Dimension Jeta with Jakob Venter. And the chasers, I think, were lacking something in terms of their ability to drive into the gap. Well, it was to be a tight finish, but at least they got a preview of it. Let's see how it would all round out, shall we? It was pacey at the line. In fact, there was not much of a gap. It was almost a fracture within the front group that accounted for it. But Androni Giocattoli Zydemek were not about to hand this one away. And Belletti, a quality rider, was destined after over 5 hours in the saddle in what was heavy conditions, humidity-wise, that was determined to make it stick. 50 metres to the finish. At the front was still Van Zyl, who'd had that brave roll of the dice. Behind, though, the sprinters were looking at each other. Who would take the chase on, and would they get to him? 300 metres to go. Still looking good for the South African as the sprinters behind just started their charge. Belletti came off the wheel of Paulo, and it'd be him that would stop the South African and break his heart on the stage. Talk about leaving it late. Well, there was the catch coming at around about the 50-metre mark. His head went down, possibly even less than that, nearer 25. Belletti taking it ahead of Jurgen Zupa. Ruslan Slubayev of Astana rounding out the day's podium, with Dylan Page of Team Super Cycling also in the frame. One stage still to come then to finish off the Tour of Langkawi for this year. More to come. Just one more stage of the great race to go.